I'd also like to follow up by pointing out that after the article in question was published in the March 2007 issue of Consumer Reports, we did not receive any letters to the editor from any of the airlines or repair stations that we wrote about, but we did receive a letter to the editor from the Federal Aviation Administration, which we published in the May 2007 issue of Consumer Reports. And I'd like to read you that. The letter is headlined Airline Safety. It was written by Nicholas A. Sabatini, Associate Administrator for Aviation Safety, the Federal Aviation Administration, Washington, D.C. And his letter reads, "The March article, An Accident Waiting to Happen, shows a remarkable misunderstanding of the current state of aviation safety in the United States and worldwide. The FAA and the airlines continually monitor the quality of repair station maintenance and follow through to correct any problems discovered. The FAA has increased the number of inspectors performing foreign surveillance by 30%. We work aggressively to make sure foreign repair stations and mechanics are qualified up front and that they remain so. Far from substituting for on-site inspections, the FAA's Air Transport Oversight System, ATOS, helps FAA inspectors look at the air carrier as a whole and how systems interact to assure safety, rather than just inspecting for compliance with rules. This includes looking at an air carrier's management, corporate safety culture, its experience, and its other systems. ATOS allows the FAA to custom fit our oversight program to an airline's particular operations and equipment. The FAA agrees that we need to stay on top of maintenance oversight to maintain the highest levels of safety, and that is exactly what we are doing." In response, Consumer Reports added below the letter, "While we applaud the FAA for increasing overseas inspectors, the concerns about safety inspections raised in the article were based on federal reports and on on-the-ground interviews of people with direct experience repairing and inspecting airplanes." What makes that letter particularly interesting is that at the very month that it was written, in March 2007, at that time, on March 29th to be exact, Calvin Scoville, the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Transportation, was testifying before the House Subcommittee on Aviation on FAA's oversight of outsourced maintenance facilities. Among the comments that he testified on that day were that from 1996 to 2005, while total maintenance costs have fluctuated, air carriers continued to increase the percentage of costs spent on outsourced maintenance from 37% to 62%, nearly $3.4 billion. He went on to say that the FAA's risk-based oversight approach, the ATOS system that was just referenced in the letter, for air carriers needs to be more flexible and comprehensive. And in addition, he pointed out that the FAA does not know how many non-certificated maintenance facilities air carriers currently use because it does not maintain a list of the facilities. During the 9 months I was conducting this investigation, I repeatedly asked the FAA for this number, how many non-certificated facilities out there, and I never received it. What I didn't realize is that until this report came out, the FAA itself didn't know. He went on to say, "We sampled 19 air carriers, and all 19 were using non-certificated facilities to some extent. We identified over 1,400 non-certificated repair facilities performing maintenance, and more than 100 of these facilities are located in foreign countries." That testimony went on to state the differences in requirements for FAA certificated repair stations and non-certificated facilities, and that list of requirements is rather lengthy. So again, thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I appreciate it. Said to me repeatedly by FAA inspectors, one is that they often don't have the budget to do this. That, you know, basically we have a system that was structured years ago, in many cases decades ago, that the FAA inspecting officers for the most part were sort of centered where the work was being done, you know, for the most part near many of the major carriers' maintenance hubs. And now, of course, you know, those people are based in places like Houston and New York and Minneapolis and Atlanta, but the work is being done, you know, for example, in China. So there's the issue of the funds to get there, but there's also the issue of the intergovernmental department sort of administrative burdens that are put on FAA inspectors, that they basically, many of them don't have the ability to just walk in and, you know, on an ad hoc basis and inspect facilities. And I spoke to one inspector who said that he did get overseas. He went to Asia. It took months to get the request approved. And when he finally got there, he walked into an aircraft hangar that he said you could have eaten off the floor, and everyone was lined up in brand new white starch smocks. And you know, he said he felt foolish, basically, that his ability as an inspector had been taken away from him because his visit was, you know, signaled in advance, so far in advance that you know, what he witnessed is basically was a show put on for him. So, anything else?
We have one more question.
Yes.
So, Bill, knowing all the information that you know, which airline do you fly on?
Well, I'm here today representing Consumers Union, and Consumers Union takes very seriously any of its employees or consultants making recommendations on specific brands, so I'm going to pass on that.
Mike Balzano with the National Workforce Coalition, an old friend of Mr. Hoffa's here. There appear to be two forces that drive people offshore. We know there's a price differential. My first question is, do you have any idea what is the rate of return that they're saving by going offshore? That's the first question. The second question is, irrespective of which political party you're talking about today, they're all interested in globalism. To what extent is this global economy forcing people to make deals that they may not want to make, but they may have to make?
Well, maybe to address the second question first, I think, you know, one of the issues here we're talking about with outsourcing, obviously it's a very, you know, highly charged emotional issue when we talk about American jobs going overseas. But the bottom line is, I think what Congressman Oberstar was saying, I think what a lot of people in this room are saying, is that, you know, there are really two issues here. We're talking about two sets of standards, and whether the work is done in North Carolina or West Virginia or Singapore or El Salvador or China, I think what a lot of people are advocating is that there should be one set of standards. So in a way, that really has nothing to do with the globalism issue. The fact is, you know, it's clear that the airlines are going overseas because of, in many cases, a huge, huge cost differential. And one of the statistics that was quoted to me is that for one major carrier, the total cost per employee at an outside repair facility was 1/5 what it is, you know, for an employee here in the United States. So the amount of money we're talking about here is huge. For the airline industry, you can't underestimate how important this is to them. And you know, it was mentioned to me repeatedly that I think even airlines that have not aggressively outsourced are very closely watching those that are, and more importantly, watching the FAA's response to it. And I think for many people in the industry, the strike by Northwest Mechanics a couple of years ago was a watershed event. That the FAA's response to that, or perhaps maybe a more accurate way is say lack of response to that, was not lost upon other airlines.